And does the master thank the servant for doing what he was told to do? Of course not. In the same way, when you obey me, you should say, we are unworthy servants who have simply done our duty. I don't know about you, but when I read that, I'm like, either Jesus is having a bad day or he's hangry, okay? It's like, what happened? I thought we were talking about how did we end up here? And I think some of the challenge for us is the culture in which we've grown up. Because as Americans, we feel like we are entitled to certain things. We feel like you should never treat anybody like that. Now, let me be clear. Jesus is not condoning some sort of rude, unappreciative behavior. He's using what would have been common for them to experience. A slave would never walk in with an external, entitled attitude. They may have it under the surface. But a servant would understand who the master really is. And so I think faith, what Jesus is trying to illustrate, is knowing who the master really is. And sometimes we use faith from an entitlement perspective and miss the faith that moves mountains. Because sometimes when we look at our faith, we focus on the amount of faith that we have. So it's like, how do I get more faith? How do I increase my faith? How do I need to pray more? What do I need to do, in other words, in order to get God to do stuff for me? The problem with when we start to focus on the amount of our faith, do you know what that means? That means we're me-focused. We're focused on what I need to do in order to get God to obey me. If I pray more, if I do more, if I go to church more, if I read my Bible more, then God will what? Owe me. I'm a hard-working servant. He should at least give me a thank you, right? That's not faith. That's not trusting God. That's not spiritual vision on what God can do in you. That's what can I do to get God to pay attention to me. Other times, faith isn't amount-focused, it's outcome-focused. It's mountain-focused. It's mulberry tree-focused. It's present dilemma-focused. I'm looking at the problem that's in front of me, and I'm thinking to myself, man, God, this is keeping me from living my best life, and I need you to move this mountain. I need you to take it out of my life. And the tension with that is that's not faith either. That's focused on some sort of outcome that you feel like you need. And I was reading a book this past week where that had this quote. He says, when your dream, you could insert present dilemma, your problem. When your dream or present dilemma becomes a demand, it takes the center place where only God should be. And so when we're outcome focused, God, I need you to move this mountain, that's not faith either. Do you know what faith is? Faith is really about the object of your faith. It is master-focused. It's paying attention to who the master is and remembering that you're not the master. I think that's some of what Jesus is trying to teach here. Pastor Craig Rochelle, he's a pastor of Life Church, popular church in the U.S. and online. Here's what he says. He's in a series right now where he's saying, start with who before do. When it comes to living our best life, we focus on the do. I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do less of that. That's going to help me live my best life. But spiritually, and even personally, when you start with who you want to be, the person that God has created, when you start with who you want to become, it'll naturally influence what you do in your life. Start here. Start small here. You know what else means start with the who before do? Start with who the master is before what you need to do. And that's the kind of faith, that's the kind of spiritual vision that begins to move mountains.